Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for assembling here this afternoon to be part of this very important town hall discussion. The ports of the Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands Task Force, Cruise Ship Task Force, focused on enhancing the tourism product here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. My name is Bevan Springer, and we would like this afternoon session to be interactive so we can entertain your questions and your concerns and your suggestions. We have a distinguished panel of presenters this afternoon assembled here to be part of this very exciting discussion, and we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'd like to recognize, of course, the Governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Honorable Kenneth Mapp, the Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Osbert Potter. We'd also like to represent members of the Governor's Cabinet, the Honorable Commissioner of Tourism, Beverly Nicholson Doty, the Honorable Commissioner Gustav James, the Department of Public Works, the Honorable Lloyd Bow, Commissioner of Property and Procurement, and we also would like to recognize representing St. Thomas and Water Island as the administrator, the Honorable Mervyn Potter. Also members of the Governor's team, Deputy Chief of Staff Rochelle Conero has joined us, and we also have a number of senators who will be joining us throughout the course of the afternoon, we understand, but we also would like to say a special good afternoon to Senator Janet Millen-Young, who is here. Representing the boards of WICO and the executive team of the Virgin Islands Port Authority, thank you for joining us. And the Commissioner of Tourism will speak shortly and give a little background about this task force and what it's all about. But we would like to also recognize members who are visiting us from the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association and the cruise line industry, beginning first of all with the President, Michelle Page. We also have Carlos Torres de Navarra, who is the Vice President of Commercial Port Operations with Carnival Cruise Lines. And we also have Federico Gonzalez Denton, the Associate Vice President of Government Relations for Latin America and the Caribbean for Royal Caribbean. Thank you so much for joining us. And representing the private sector at the head table, Mr. Richard Berry, who is President of Topa Equities VI Corporation. As we begin the presentation and the various presentations on this program, we would like to let you know that if you have any members of your respective organizations who can't join us and they would like to send questions, there's an email. You can text them or email them, and it's commissioner@usvitourismplan.com, commissioner@usvitourismplan.com, and we'll try to entertain as many questions as we can throughout the course of the afternoon. And for those of you who perhaps are shy, we have members of the Department of Tourism team who have index cards, and you can write your questions and submit them. If you don't want to ask your questions directly, we have index cards and pens for you to submit those questions. So without further ado, allow me to introduce the Honorable Beverly Nicholson Doty, Commissioner of Tourism for the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Bevan. Honorable Governor, Lieutenant Governor, protocol having been established, I just want to recognize our Senator at Large, Senator Smith, who joined us since we gave the introductions. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I am, to say the least, just extremely pleased about the turnout. It tells about the engagement and the interest of our community in addressing those things that are working and those things that are not working. And I think that one of the things that we hope to achieve here today is to have an open and direct dialogue and that we add to our action plan. And just to give you a little background on how we got here. In January of this year, right before the State of the Territory, our governor called me to his office, and I thought it was for our routine meeting of the month. and he indicated to me that he was giving me a task, which was to work on the cruise industry specifically, to really start working with the public-private sector. I suggested to him that we revisit a concept that had worked in the past, which was having a public-private sector partnership task force so that we could work together, that we all have skin in this game. And so it was important for us to work together. And since then, we've had 2 task force meetings. We've met with the FCCA Operations Committee, and I've had numerous meetings with Michelle and the various members of the cruise line. However, this is certainly not something that is tourism alone, the Office of the Governor. So I'm going to ask all of the members of the Governor's Tourism Task Force to stand, because this is something that we've been working on together. If all the members that are here with us, if you could please stand. Thank you very much. I know that several are traveling, but they represent so many areas of our industry here in the Virgin Islands, from retail to spirits and tobacco, from taxi operators to those of us on the Governor's Cabinet that have a direct interface with tourism. Especially, I'd like to acknowledge the President and CEO of the West Indian Company, Mr. Clifford Graham, and the Assistant Executive Director of the Port Authority, Damien Cartwright, who are both here with us as well. All of us are working as a team, and this is an opportunity for us to get feedback. We've had dialogue with the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association. We've had dialogue amongst ourselves. However, it's important for us to hear from you and for all of us to hear from our cruise partners. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn the meeting over to the Honorable Kenneth E. Mapp, who will give an official welcome and kick us off this afternoon. Governor?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. First, let me say thank you to all of this wonderful group of folks from the community, from the Virgin Islands. This is what we need, and we're looking forward to, and we want to have a full mix of the community to engage in what we need to do to reestablish ourselves as the premier destination for cruise visitors in the Caribbean. I want to thank the community. I want to thank the members of the private sector and even those that are retired that participate and work with us on these very, very challenging issues. The task force members who leave their businesses and leave their work and come and sit with us to give guidance and to participate and to make sure we understand the concerns of the community so they can be addressed is most important. But of vital and critical for all that's in this meeting today to recognize is that this is not an issue that the government has a responsibility to go forward and do a series of tasks. The Virgin Islands, the St. Thomas destination as a port destination, will not rebound unless we do it as a community effort. All of us getting together, being involved, being very candid, and working towards a common objective to move our community and to move this destination back to the top of the line. We've had a lot of discussions over the last 2 years of a number of issues that plague and affect the visitor experience in the island of St. Thomas. And let's just be candid. That's what we're selling as a destination, experience. And that experience must be robust, it must be vigorous, it must drive interest, it must create an attraction, and it must leave the visitor when they're departing the territory, departing this destination with a strong feeling that I didn't do all I wanted to do. There was so much more to see and to do, and the people are so great that I have to return, I have to come back and continue this journey. And all of us in this room, all of us in this community can really make this happen. because fundamentally as a people, we're very open, we're very engaging, and we really, really like to entertain. So those things that we must complete, whether they be the infrastructure that the government is responsible for in assuring that transportation is seamless, ensuring that our sites are vibrant, that our history sparkles, that our island is clean, to the offerings in our stores in terms of the products that people have access to and are willing to buy, and recognizing the change in the demographics of the traveler, the change in the age of the traveler, the change in the desires of the traveler in terms of the commodities that they wish to have, the kinds of experiences they wish to have, whether active or passive, when they visit a destination. All of these realities are what's going to determine how competitive we are and how we move our attraction as a destination to make it a vibrant place to visit. Many of us, most of us travel, and most of us have places that we pick as our favorite spot to travel, to vacation, to go and take care of medical issues and the like. No different that folks who get on ships and spend money have literally a vacation that take them to several destinations, and they have different experiences in each of these destinations. And those experiences are a great factor in determining how much they spend, whether they wish to return, and how do they speak to their friends and their family about the experiences that they're having when they're in a particular destinations. We want this to be a very productive process. And part of being a productive process is to own some of our shortcomings. And so I want to speak as governor tonight on some of our shortcomings. Because while we're concentrating on the cruise experience and the cruise traveler, we are a tourist destination, a very huge tourist destination with tremendous name recognition that many people are interested in coming to, interested in visiting. And the expectation of the visitor who have not been here in the past is truly quite high. But the satisfaction of that visitor once they arrive many times are very far apart from their expectation. So they come, they expect to have a very vibrant and good vacation and to see a lot of exciting things and to have experiences about our culture and our tradition and our food and our people and our history, and to see wonderful sights that they may not have experienced in the past. But when they come, they're muddled in traffic. They're muddled in construction work. They're muddled with trash on the side of our roads. They're muddled in airports that you can't get in or out of. They're just overwhelmed by things that are not within their reasonable expectation of spending money and coming to a jurisdiction and having quite a positive and a vibrant experience. And all of us in this room, all of us in this community, small, large, great, government, private, nonprofit, all of us have a role to play that can change that paradigm to a positive basis. And so this whole process of this charrette, this town hall meeting, and having our friends here like Michelle, like Federico, Carlos, is to really be very candid. Help us by being candid and telling us what are your clients saying to you about their visits in the Virgin Islands. Today is not a day that we should worry about how people are going to accept the realities of the experiences that the guests are having. We're not interested in the political correctness of describing how visitors are expressing their experience when they visit our port, because we can't make the change if we really don't believe that the problem is serious. And as a community, as the governor, I can say that as a community, what we, and I underscore the word we, what we like to do as a people, as most others in many other communities, we really just rather blame somebody else. It's, if you do this, then we will be better. If you didn't do that, we would be better. what we want to come together as a community and say, what collectively do we have to do to make a change and to bring the expectation of the traveler when they visit our destination much closer to their satisfaction. Raise the satisfaction bar of the traveler that they want to return. And when they do return, they know that there's more to do, there's more to experience, and there's more to have. And so I am prepared as governor at the outset to tell you that I will make the tough decisions that the public sector need to do to make this change occur. I'm not going to be smitten or concerned or put in fear of making decisions that some people may be upset with or say that I supported you and you should allow me to continue to do what I was doing, because I can't allow one or two people to get in the way of the progress of an entire community. And I know some of the topics we're going to talk about today, I said to Commissioner James and the Commissioner, because of where we're at, we're going to entertain all the questions and comments about Main Street. But I'm going to handle most of those questions because we're at a point in the Main Street revitalization that we need to be really very careful today and tomorrow about exactly what we say. I can assure the community by next Monday, you're going to get a complete and unbridled report about the Main Street project. And that report, I will be personally available for questions and answers by the community and the media. So we'll discuss that today, but it's going to be sort of a limited discussion because we are in the middle of what we know we must do. So I want us to have a good, robust conversation. I am here for all of the time that's required. I'm not going to run out and say that my schedule says I must be somewhere at some other time. I'm here for all the time that it takes because I want you to be assured and know that we are committed to work to turn the community and the Virgin Islands and our product, because that's what we're doing. We are providing a product to ensure that our product recaptures its position as the most vibrant and the #1 destination for the cruise passenger and visiting tourists to the Caribbean region. I do want to acknowledge the presence of Senator Smith and the presence of Senator Janet Millen-Young. Thank you so much for being here, and I am hopeful that other members of the legislature will be here as well. And so, Michelle, thank you for the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association for being here, Carlos and Federico. And you promised me, I said we would set it up, you promised me that we're going to be candid and direct and say what the issues are, because that's the only way we can fix it. We need to know what our guests are saying about their visits to our community. So thank you very much, Commissioner Doty, and I stand fully prepared to participate and to listen and to understand what the tasks are and what we need to be doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Mapp. We've heard from our leadership of the territory. We now turn to the private sector. Mr. Richard Berry, President of Topa Equities VI Corporation, and he is a private sector member of the task force. Mr. Berry.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, with protocol already been established, I wanted to start out today by thanking the Honorable Governor Kenneth Mapp and his staff, along with Beverly Nicholson Doty and her staff, for organizing this town hall event. A lot was put into it, and they've done an amazing job getting it scheduled and put together. To the members of the FCCA that are here today, thank you very much for taking the time to visit, and we look forward to listening to your thoughts and ideas that can help us enhance and grow our destination, but also our partnership. The recent creation of the Cruise Ship Task Force, bringing together local, private, and public sector partners, is a key to start to understanding the needs of working and partnering with the FCC and its members. As a born and raised Virgin Islander, and having spent over 30 years in business directly benefiting from the cruise ship industry, I'm extremely pleased by this new positive direction. Listening to and partnering with the FCCA and their members will once again allow the USVI to return to its prominence as one of the key ports of call. However, we must listen and we must act. For too long, we have promised them and their members and not delivered on core projects and improvements. And when we have, it's been woefully behind schedule. For too long, we have not had a collaborative strategy with our ports. WICO and the Port Authority must speak and act with the same sense of purpose, urgency, and strategy from both sides. And while other key ports of call have moved past us, and many others such as St. Martin, St. Kitts, the Dominican Republic, the Cayman Islands, and yes, even next door in the BVI, have either completed or well on their way to serious port expansions. All of these expansions have been done with key input and partnership with the FCCA and its membership. These expansions have also led to serious declines in our port visits in St. Thomas and almost zero port calls on the island of St. Croix. Just as an example, May through September of this year, we will see 44 fewer calls to the WICO dock. In Crown Bay, from the year 2014 to 2018, there's been a 36% decline in Oasis-class ships entering into Crown Bay. Also importantly is where those Oasis-class ships are going first. We seem to be getting less and less of the newer ships, and they becoming later to the territory. And this causes for reduced spending that affects everybody that's in this room. So, as both the private and public sector, we have to ask ourselves why. And to me, it's a very, very apparent answer. We have not kept pace with a growing, thriving industry that's the cruise ship industry. The members of the FCCA, including the ones that sit here with us today, continue to invest billions of dollars to ensure that their business grows and prospers. If I'm not wrong, and you can correct me on this, there's been over 50 new ships commissioned that are going to be going into service over the next 2 years in the industry. 46, sorry, close enough. You know, in the old days when the cruise ships used to come here and they used to dance the polka on the back of the ships, those days are gone because these companies needed to constantly reinvent themselves to be relevant to their customer base, and they do it very, very well, as have other ports of call in the region. We must do the same. We cannot continue to have the same mentality that has plagued us in the past. We cannot allow special interest groups or even individuals to hold these islands hostage by not allowing positive change to occur for the benefit of all Virgin Islanders. If these changes do not occur, we will continue to see declining calls and declining revenue. That's pure fact. We must both as a public sector executive branch and legislative branch, along with the private sector, do better and engage in meaningful change. We must show the FCCA and its members that we are for real and committed to the future that benefits all parties. I believe the formation of this task force is just one small step in moving in that direction. However, we must immediately develop a short-term plan to gain and grow our cruise ship calls, as well as show the FCCA once again that we are committed and serious. Including in that short term must be the following: implementation of water transportation, completion of the downtown historic revitalization, immediate dredging and at the entrance of our main harbor, as well as our turnaround basin to accommodate larger Oasis-class ships at the WICO facility. Work with Customs and Border Patrol for pre-clearance for foreign passengers, and full completion of our Fort Christian finally. That's just to name a few. But while these improvements need to happen now, we also need to simultaneously look at a long-term 5 to 10-year strategy with input from the people that are up at this table today. And I'm so glad that they're here to share that with us. So the keys that we have to look at for long-term strategy are new facilities that can accommodate the increase in more ships and larger ships. Partnership with the FCCA and its members to increase calls to the territory. Improve on current facilities and improve on the customer satisfaction ratings that are declining. Improve our retail environment with better selection and more culturally based items. Improve shore excursions and the diversity of these excursions. The above-mentioned improvements, both short and long-term, need to be part of an overriding commitment by all stakeholders, both public and private, if we are to once again become the premier destination in this region. In closing, I'm very much looking forward to hearing today about some of the progress that's being happened in some of the core areas and some of the plans to address and move other projects forward in a timely manner. We are also, and I'm very excited about this, is to hear from the FCCA members on their current perspective and recommendations of how we can all move forward in a positive and mutually beneficial direction. I had the pleasure of spending a few hours with them up in Miami about 2 months ago, I believe. And it's very apparent, as you will see today, that they're committed to our success. We just need to make sure that we're committed to all of our successes combined. So, Governor, thank you. Commissioner, thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you very much. We'd like to recognize Senate President Myron Jackson, who is joining us. Welcome. And we also like to recognize Senator Neville James, who also has joined us. Next up is our Commissioner of Public Works, the Honorable Gustav James, to give us an update on infrastructure projects.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to the audience for taking your time to come here today. I know that we all have busy schedules, and your presence here today shows us that you have a keen interest in what happens in this territory. So thank you very much for coming. I'm Gustav James, and I'm the Commissioner of Public Works. We have several projects that are ongoing in various stages that are going to impact this community, especially the Charlotte-Amalie area. I'm going to have a couple of my team also help in the presentation. We've got the major activities we've got going on is a new initiative to establish water transportation in the Charlotte-Amalie Harbor. We're going to be continuing the Moravian Highway project that you see is ongoing right now. We also have Sub-Base, Crown Bay beautification, redevelopment that's coming very shortly, and the Veterans Drive project, and also there's the Main Street project. So what we are demonstrating here today and the government portion is that we are very committed to doing our part. The government is committed to investing in the infrastructure of this territory. On the Veterans Drive project, Veterans Drive project is valued at approximately $130 million. And we plan to invest that money in that highway. The portion that we're working on now is a total of $40 million. And that portion will take us from the Lovers Lane area to the east side of the legislature building. Mr. McLean will give some more details on that project in a few minutes. We also have the Main Street project, which is a $10 million investment on the part of this government. And I understand that many of you know that we get federal aid in doing our highway projects. However, federal aid is given to the Virgin Islands. It's not given to Main Street. It's not given to Veterans Drive. It's given to the Virgin Islands. So when we decide that we're going to spend $130 million on Veterans Drive, that is because we want to do something for Veterans Drive. That's because we want to do something for this particular infrastructure in this area. So I just wanted to make that point, because I get a lot of commentary that indicates that, oh, it's the federal government's project. It's not the federal government's project. The Congress of the United States allocates a certain amount of funding to the United States Virgin Islands, and we decide how we're going to utilize that funding. We decided to actually utilize some of that funding to build a new fire station as a part of our Veterans Drive expansion. And so that's a decision that's made by the Virgin Islands government. The $130 million Veterans Drive project required that we seek Gavi bonds. And these Gavi bonds are financed with the annual allotment we get from Congress. So we were able to borrow $98 million, of which we can spend, immediately spend $91 million. And like I said, $40 million is on Veterans Drive. We've got several projects on the island of St. Croix that are going to use up close to $50 million. So the water transportation is an initiative that we started in order to do water taxi type service, water transportation within the harbor. We decided to go to a RFP process where we allow private providers to come in and get an exclusivity to control that route in accordance with our specifications. Mr. Chance will give a brief description of that. And so we're going to give these short descriptions of our projects, and then we will be accepting questions at the end, I believe, Commissioner Doty, at the end of the presentations by the various speakers. So I'm going to ask Mr. Chance to come forward and just talk a little bit about the water transportation project.
Good evening, everyone. Today it gives me great pleasure in announcing the great progress that we have made in our water transportation RFP. As of today, we have gone through our RFP process, which we have so far solicited proposals. And we're in the final stage of that project as we move forward in getting this underway. As you can see here on the monitor, where we have a number of locations here in the harbor. As of today, we are in the proposal and negotiation process. We anticipate to have this completed by the end of July and contract awarded sometime between August and September of this year. Our ultimate plan is to have the first service implemented at the end of November. Currently, we are working with a number of individuals who have submitted proposals to us. We're currently in that process, and it's new to us, and we'll be reaching out to other jurisdictions as to how to actually implement this process. Currently, as you can see, the routes, we're going to start in Subbase, and we're going to go to Water Island. Then from Water Island, we're going to move on to the waterfront, so two stops, and then on to Avonside. This route is going to be a route that is going to be a dual route where we start at both ends. So we hope to have one individual who will actually operate this route for us. What we're actually looking for is a private-public partnership where whoever is selected to operate this route works with the government and works with us to provide a multi-mode system. Because at the end of the day, we want this system, this service, not only to serve tourism, but to also serve our locals as a means of alleviating some of the traffic congestions that we have in downtown Charlotte, Tamale. As you can see here on the monitor, we have made much progress. Currently, we'll be working with FTA and Federal Highway in obtaining approvals for federal funds. This plan that we're actually putting together is a USVI Fairboat program, which also includes routes between St. Thomas and St. Croix. Currently, we're working on a plan, and this plan is a Fairboat program which we hope to develop with our partners. At this stage, we we are currently submitting these proposals to FTA and to Federal Highway. That is the Fairboat plan, so they can buy into it. If the federal folks buy into this program, then it opens the door for us here in the government in the U.S. Virgin Islands to obtain federal funds to purchase bus, to do infrastructure work, and boats for the program. So as you can see, as of today, this is where we are currently at. As I said, it's going to be, at the end of the day, a public-government partnership, private partnership.
Here we go. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Bao from the Department of Property and Procurement that's working with Public Works on this project. When we had our last task force meeting, I think we came to the, I don't want to say conclusion, but I think we came to the mutual understanding between the public and private sector that given the types of vessels for moving folks in the harbor, that there would be multiple operators or variants of operators. Could you speak to that for the community, please?
Good afternoon, Lloyd Bao, Commissioner of Property and Procurement. I do believe that was a discussion that was made. I'm not sure exactly at this point if that was actually decided through the RFP
Well, tell
process.
us what your department is doing in terms of the RFP process. Let the public know where we're at with that process, and then how you plan to proceed, because your department is the one that will ultimately, by statute, make the selection and enter into the contracts.
Exactly. I anticipate having that evaluation report on my desk Monday morning. The evaluation report of deciding the recommendation who we're going to go with.
Okay.
That's the anticipation, because to the best of my knowledge, the whole process has gone through. As a matter of fact, we're ahead of schedule.
Okay.
And that process has gone through, and I'm anticipating getting the evaluation report on my desk on Monday morning. Based on my evaluation supervisor, that's what she stated to me today.
Right.
After that, once I review it and it's approved by myself, a letter will be forwarded to the Department of Public Works to proceed with the contract for that vendor or multiple vendors. And at that
With
point,
that vendor or multiple vendors?
right, that vendor, based on what was decided.
Could you get a microphone so that the community can hear you, please? No. Can we borrow a mic? If you don't mind? Thanks.
We had a total of 8 proposals, and of the 8 proposals, 4 have been shortlisted already. So we're down to 4 proposals. We're going to be conducting additional interviews and making the final decision as to whether we are going to contract with 2 or more entities or just even one entity. But we have shortlisted 4, and we consider those 4 viable and able.
All right. And then that would allow us to remain on schedule to have a decision in terms of persons or entities by the end of July?
We will have a decision. We want to do one other thing before we finalize our decision, and that is to take a trip down to St. Martin, which we have a group that's going down there on the 26th. That's next week.
Yep, the 26th.
Wednesday, yes. And so they're going to go down to St. Martin and have a first-hand look at how that operation is running, and then we will make our final decisions as to the group.
All right. Could you share with the community the participation of the FCCA, Commissioner Bao, in the process, in what has gotten us to this point in the process? Because we had some collaboration with the team up in Miami, and I'd like the community to know of FCCA's participation, so that we recognize that we're working in tandem with the cruise industry and not going out to put in sort of water transportation, and then it's not relative to the overall use of the folks on the ships and what it is we're trying to accomplish in moving folks around.
Well, as far as the procurement division was concerned, or property and procurement, in regards to what the FCCA spoke about, they just basically explained to us what they were looking forward to. They wanted to hear how the process was going to go. Basically, I explained that to them when I took the trip with Commissioner Doty, and they were very pleased as far as the mechanisms that we were going to use, and in terms of the lead times and in terms of the time frame that we will be procuring this RFP.
Right.
Right.
If I could, to respond to the governor's direct question, if we had to point to one single thing that has held St. Thomas back, it's you haven't been able to move people. If you can't move people, people are going to come back frustrated, and that's part of the experience. And this is something that we have been promised for 10 years or more, that we have been looking at it. So don't blame the governor. The governor is responding to something that the cruise industry has said. You know what the interpretation of insanity is? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And that's what the governor would be doing if he did not solve this thing. There's a big pie out there. You're satisfying yourself with a small slice of it. Let's get the whole thing and eat it together.
I thought that was important, Commissioner, about it. We share that in terms of the community. And I want to make clear that the input of the FCCA has no relevance, or any of our work have any relevance to who performs the service. The work we're talking about in terms is specification, time and movement, number of people to be moved, the kinds of delivery of the product that we're seeking to procure, not who we're buying the product from. And that is going to be determined through the legitimate procurement process of the government in terms of people submitting their RFPs and then property and procurement going through that process to come to a selection. All right? Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner,
yes.
I want you to go back, and I don't know if Mr. McLean can help us. I want you to go back specifically, and let's just talk about what we're doing in terms of the Crown Bay beautification project, the Harvard Highway improvements that are going there, what's going to happen in terms of the improvements, the current construction on Veterans Drive that's east of the legislature to the Lucinda Millen corner. We want folks to know that. And then let's spend some time talking about the elephant in the room called the Main Street Revitalization Project. All right?
Right. Mr. McLean can give us a breakdown on those projects, Governor.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jomo McLean. I'm the Highway Program Manager at the Department of Public Works. As the Commissioner and the Governor indicated, on the Crown Bay improvement projects, if you look at the slides, we have a project that we actually already went out to bid, actually 2 times. We are in the process of obtaining concurrence from Federal Highway right now so that we can begin the contract execution phase of this process. And in the Crown Bay Improvement Project is going to take, it's going to perform some roadway widening between Niski Center and Kentucky Fried Chicken Mall area. And it's going to involve the paving of the roadway essentially from the Crown Bay dock area all the way out to the Pueblo intersection. So we're going to be doing new pavement, new signage, some roadway widening, sidewalk improvements, etc., in the downtown, in the Crown Bay area. When you get out by the Howard intersection, Howard Highway intersection, right by Pueblo, I think everyone has noticed that some landscaping has been going in, and that's another one of our projects called the Moravian Highway Project. And that project is going to, it's in construction now. It's scheduled to be complete probably within the next two to 3 months, depending on whether we can continue receiving asphalt. That project involves paving of the roadway from the Niski Center intersection all the way to the Blyden Terminal. And that project is going to entails not just paving, but it also entails sidewalk improvements. We're replacing a lot of the broken sidewalks. We're doing a lot of signage, and of course we're doing landscaping to include irrigation. So as you leave the Crown Bay facility, to get to downtown, it would be a very much improved infrastructure with those 2 projects. Next.
Thank you. And then to add on that, as part of the learning that we got at the last sea trade, if you will, that a number of the passengers, we have to get the activity in the Crown Bay area up in terms of what do people do and what they can do in that area. And then there was an interest of one, people going to the beach on the Emerald side. How do we make that safer? And two, how do we create a process for folks who want to walk from Crown Bay up into the Charlotte and Raleigh town? And so in addition to these projects, what we have done from the Virgin Islands Police Department side in terms of making sure people feel that they're in a safe environment, we ordered a series of police Segways and police smart cars. And the only reason we did that, because we can really take foot patrol officers and give them more time and speed in the patrol of those areas. And the smart cars are just those very small cars that you see, but you can get them in police models, and we acquired them because a regular police car that you see on the road with all of the markings is an $80,000 machine with all of the requirements. A smart car with all of the police requirements in them is a $26,000 machine. And so we can get a few of those and use them in the Crown Bay area, use them out at Haven sites, use them in between all of those areas, because we can have a police officer in them and patrol with Segways in the areas for the community and for the visiting community. So that's the Crown Bay improvements, that's the Howard Highway improvements. And let's talk about the 4 lanes, the Veterans Drive. You expect the bidding on that has begun?
Yes. The Veterans Drive project is currently out to bid. That's a federal procurement project. It's being managed by Eastern Federal Lands Highway Division. And that project went out to bid in late June. We had the pre-bid meeting June 28th, I believe. And bids are due on August 4th. So we expect to be receiving bids on August 4th and make an award in September for that project.
And so that we don't, again, create more obstruction in the flow of traffic, how we have worked, Eastern Federal Land is a subsidiary of the Federal Highway System. They've done other highway projects for the government of the VI, and they're the entity responsible for managing that project. What we're going to do, so we don't obstruct the traffic and create more bottlenecks on the waterfront, you're going to see that we're going to be doing all of the work in the ocean first. That work requires 2 new lanes in the waterfront that's been permitted by Army Corps of Engineers, and all the permits are in place. We're going to do the 2 new lanes between the legislature and the Lucinda Millen area, that corner. And then when those lanes are complete, we'll move the traffic out there, and then we'll work on the old lanes on the inside so we're not obstructing the flow of traffic. So you'll be able to drive by and see the construction and everything that's going on as we build the new highway lanes without obstructing the old lanes, and then put the new, get the new lanes in and functional, and then do work on the old lanes. And that also has the beautification project, which will then, you will see trees and everything on the waterfront, will allow people more gravitas to walk, again, from the Haven site area towards Charlotte and Raleigh, because all of that open area with all of the sun bleaching on you will no longer be there. You'll have trees and benches and sort of what was done sort of in the town of Frederickstead by making it a park esplanade for people to be able to walk on. And then finally, because we want the community's participation, finally let's get to the Main Street project. And let me say that we've got 1 block that we stopped the work not too long ago. Let me just say tomorrow for the Main Street merchants, there's going to be some paving over the area that was uncovered to close it. We've stopped the project. I'm not permitted today to say with specificity what will happen, and we all know we're a very litigious society, but I can say this, and I got this from your report, Commissioner. It appears that of this $10 million project, about $500,000 have been released to the contractor in terms of the work that was done, so that there should not be any concern in the community that we've sort of eviscerated or spent off the monies for this project and that there are not funds there to complete it. The funds are in fact there, and without again putting my foot in my mouth, We remember that the contractor that's currently on the project had to have a bid to be able to have this contract. I will say that 3 weeks ago, Ms. Canero, was it 3 weeks ago, I dispatched a team to Federal Highway in Puerto Rico that met with the Federal Highway folks there. We discussed with them what we felt was the best course of action, and we have now formally heard back from Federal Highway, which then allows me to make some final decisions and then come to the people of the Virgin Islands very early next week with a full discussion and a report on the Main Street project. We are going to be meeting again with some of the retailers on the Main Street project. I'm just giving this to you as a thought. This is not a decision. I'm giving this to you as a thought, and I want to refer back to what we did in Christiansted, and while folks were really very anxious and very concerned, ultimately it worked. The Main Street project's contract really require that you only work at night, that whatever work that needs to be done, you do it at night, and the street must be passable for traffic and pedestrians during the day. Now, recognize that that project requires the removal of old sewage lines and water lines, the replacement of new sewer lines and water lines, and the installation of conduits for fiber optic cabling for the technology side of the infrastructure, as well as electrical infrastructure uplinks to the businesses and the historic lighting that will go on Main Street. And so when you cover the street up in the day and make it passable, and the contractor arrives in the evening and then uncovers and digs and do their work, they've got to, by contract, have the street open by 6 a.m. So that means that by 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, they've got to start the modus of getting the street ready so that by 6 a.m. they're out of there and it is functioning. That is a very laborious, expensive process. Now, I had a similar situation of water lines, sewer lines on Company Street in Christiansted, and I asked the retailers to come in, and we asked them to allow us a week at a time to go in and dig out all of the old infrastructure pieces, install the new infrastructure pieces, and pave the street over, and then move to the next block. And folks just knew or said they were going to lose their business because the government isn't going to get it done, and we're going to be here forever, and that's the end of it. But they relented and said, we're willing to try. And I have to say, with the private sector and the contractors and the government personnel, we were able to go in, dig the street up, take out all the old stuff, put all the new stuff in, put the quarry sand on it, cover it over, compact it, and put 2 layers of soft asphalt on it, and move to the next block, and to the next block, and to the next block. And within, I believe, 3 to 4 weeks of all the entire Company Street, we got it done, and then the Department of Public Works was able to come back in and do the formal paving over and the striping and whatever repairs they needed to do to the sidewalks. That's a big challenge, but we don't want to be in the construction underground in the height of the visiting season. And so the question is there any opportunity, and we'll sit with the merchants on Main Street to see if there's any opportunity to allow us to do that and do it within a specific time frame. The biggest challenge is underground. How do we get all of the underground infrastructure out and the new infrastructure in place, and then get the street reopened? And doing it for 6 hours, 7 hours in the evening, and then closing and coming back is not just the best way. It's the way the contract requires it to be done, but it's not the most efficient, most cost-effective, and clearly not the most timely on the project. Now, Commissioner and the Attorney General is in here. I don't think I've crossed the line.
No, Governor, I think you're getting to be very good at this business. I mean, you have a very good handle on just what we have to do and how it has to get done. Thank you very much.
But so we'll have to have that discussion with the businesses on Main Street, but at the end of the day, we commit to you that we're going to get this done, and we're going to get it done in a timely basis. I can't say any more about that and the contractor. You should know that we are planning the relocation of the fire station at the fort currently now, and the plan is to demolish a good portion of the fire station and open up the realities of the fort. The Commissioner Doty has in fact convinced me tentatively to leave a portion of the old fire station in place so that they can have a visitor center, so that we can have a place where we can have bathrooms and information for the visitors and stuff like that. But the key is to get the old fire station and get all that building that we put over the years around the fort away from the fort, so that the fort can become the part of the centerpiece of the Charlotte Amalie downtown area. And I think from your list, Commissioner, James,
Yes,
we've covered all of your projects.
yes, we have.
All right. Okay? I want to so we can get to FCA. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner Bao. Commissioner Doty, we can go back. Because I want the public to really have an opportunity to air their concerns and ask their questions, and I didn't want the public side to just, for lack of a better term, please forgive me, sucking up all the air in the room, and we're not getting through the issues at hand.
Thank you, Governor. As we introduce the team from the FCCA and the cruise line, we go now to Michelle Page, the president of the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association.
That's me.
Michelle.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you and represent 19 member lines of the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association. I remember, and this is sad, but I remember when there was only 5 cruise lines in the 70s and only 500,000 cruise passengers. Times are a-changing. Those 500,000 cruise passengers have been parlayed into 25.3 million cruise passengers that we're forecasting this year. That's 1 million more than we hosted last year. So when I hear the Caribbean say, but we used to have 56% of the market share. Yeah, you had 56% of 500,000. Now you have 1/3 of 25 million. So you have a lot more opportunity. Yes, there's global competition. We talk about the Caribbean, and the Caribbean is the birthplace of the cruise industry. And so in some respects, you're at a disadvantage because you've had the cruise industry. You've experienced the cruise industry. You own the cruise industry. Wrong. Tourism is a fickle friend, my friends. We always have to be on our game. We have to be on edge, and we have to always constantly be revitalizing. Look at the ships. Are they the same ships that you saw 10 years ago, 20 years ago? No. And that's what we're looking at. Everything that Richard and the governor says, I echo. And I have to tell you a little bit of a secret. I don't know that you know, but the governor and I go way back. So sometimes I have to remind myself that he's just not my friend Ken, that he's the governor, because we have stayed in contact for almost 30 years. And the commissioner, this is your team. This team works every minute of the day. We have a problem, I reach out and they fix it. So I had to go on record to tell you that I congratulate you, that you have such a phenomenal leadership in the Virgin Islands. And together, we can be strong. As the governor said, this is Team USVI, and I'm proud to be a member of this team. But as I was saying, global competition is knocking at your door. Ships are going to Asia, Australia. But the Caribbean is still important. The U.S. Virgin Islands is a jewel. But what do we have to do? You have to remember 2 things. And these are the most important things that you can remember. There's only 2 reasons that the ships go any place. We take people to where they want to go. What does that mean? They are looking at their most precious time, where they want to go on vacation. And sometimes it's a little box that they're checking off, done that. And sometimes the Caribbean has been deficient in terms of all being the same. You're all vanilla. So they say, been to the Caribbean, done that. So we have to look at your individuality. The second is the cruise industry, and I used to be embarrassed to say this, but now I can say it because what are you going to do? Chase me out? The cruise industry is in business to make money. We go to where we can make the most money. When you're making money, we're making money. If the cruise passengers are going on a shore excursion, not only are they having a super satisfactory experience, but the cruise lines make money. When the ships, the passengers are having a wonderful time and everything's, we're making money, you're making money. I'm going to read to you one of the best statements I've ever heard from the CTO. The Caribbean's ability to stimulate the required demand will be directly dependent upon its capacity to refresh, reinvent its tourism economies by effectively adapting to the ever-changing global environment, pushing the envelope, taking risks, and launching innovations which constantly deliver on changing consumer expectations. Does that mean selling the same things you've been selling for 20 years and expect that a different reaction? No. Does that mean the same shore excursions that you've had for 20 years are going to be successful? No. Does that mean that the same transportation that you had in place to carry 100,000 cruise passengers are going to take you into the 2 million range? No. That means we have to have options. That means that we have to look at who are you? You're the Virgin Islands. What does that mean? What's your history? What's the customs? What are the people like? People want to meet people. What's your food? What are the dishes? People want to know when they go back on the ship, what do you produce here? Yes, diamonds are important, but what do you make here that people can, it's a story. They want something they can't get anyplace else. They want to know you, they want to experience you, they want to take you home. It's your claim to fame. Lots of places have beautiful beaches. That's important. But you have to tell them a story. Disney says it best. Every single person that works at Disney, whether you're sweeping the streets or you're a character, you're a cast member. So we're all cast members, and we're on Team US Virgin Islands. I'm going to tell you now where we are. But I don't want you to, yes, sometimes you have to see reality to get to the next step. But you are the Virgin Islands, and you still are extremely important, and that's why we're here. And as the governor said, we are here to have you meet your goals. First, the spending. The spending in 2009 was $193.22, and the crew members spent $152.58. Then in 2012, it dropped to $146.70 for the passengers and $138.30 for crew. In 2015, it went up a tad to $150 for passengers and dropped further for crew to $110. And as the governor said, in 2012, you hosted 1.8 million cruise passengers. In 2015, almost 2 million. This year, we're forecasting a little bit over 1.5. And every single ship that comes in, you're making $500,000. So every ship that doesn't call, you're losing $500,000 economic impact. But if we put into place all the ingredients, and you said it well. I mean, we don't have to, you know what the answer is, but it's doing it. It means that when you pick up somebody in your taxi, you're telling them about the Virgin Islands, the history, and about other places to go. It's cross-selling. When they come into your store, not only are you selling them a piece of jewelry, but you're telling them about the history and telling them, did you go to this attraction? What your game plan is to keep them off the ship. and for them to come back and say, why did you leave? I'd like to stay here. If we could have the ship stay here longer and not go someplace else, that's helping us save money as well. It is making the Virgin Islands that wow again. And this is something that's extremely important, that in 2012, 39% made their first visit to the Virgin Islands. Only 37% in 2015. You follow the trend? Because you're a well-established destination, people know you. They feel comfortable, and they like the Virgin Islands. But maybe they're not spending money. Maybe they're not going on the tour because they think they know everything. And that's the worst place to be, when people think they know you. We got to shake it up. We got to start making things that we're telling that story. We're putting the wow back into the Virgin Islands. And now I'm going to tell you where you stand on the passenger ratings in terms of how satisfied were you with your overall experience to the U.S. Virgin Islands. You didn't rank bad, but you're not going to be happy with this. You ranked 11 out of 35 destinations when we asked that question. And it was pretty much that in terms of how satisfied were you with your destination experience, how are you going to recommend St. Thomas as a land-based vacation, until we get to the question, how satisfied were you with your tour that you purchased? Any guesses? What do you think out of 35? Come on.
Throw a number.
29. Who said that? Me. Winner. 29 out of 35. Is that sad? We can do it. With this governor and that commissioner, we can do it. With Team U.S. Virgin Islands. But he needs the private sector. We need the private sector to realize what we have to do in terms of satisfying the consumer. You're not satisfying each other. If you want the cruise passengers to buy, you have to sell what they want. You have to have the tours that they want that are going to cause them to be excited and go on it again. You're going to have an exciting story to tell. Because the worst place to be is for people to say, why even get off the ship? Other destinations are doing it, my friends. I can tell you Asia is following everything that you did right and everything you're doing wrong. But I want to tell you that I'm excited because you do have it all. You just have to polish it up and you have to, once again, get hungry. Thank you very much for being my friend.
Vice President of Government Relations for Latin America, Caribbean, and South Florida for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And again, it's an honor to be here. I started with the cruise industry probably like 10 years ago, and senior management gave me a list of the 3 main mysteries like in the region. So the first one was about the chupacabra. What is a chupacabra? It's a goat? It's a vampire? Who knows? What is that? We don't know. The second one was why Cayman doesn't have a cruise pier. We still don't know. Oh, but it's coming. Yeah, there's a pipeline. But we have been hearing about that for many, many years. And the third one was why St. Thomas doesn't have water transportation. So finally, after many years, we are almost there in solving that mystery. 2 out of 3. So we're good. I'm going to give you 2 examples of one destination that is doing great. And I'm not talking about the cruise industry. I'm talking about overall tourism. And one destination that is not doing that well. And those are very good examples for USVI to decide which way to go. One is Las Vegas. Las Vegas every 20 years, 25 years, perfectly fine hotels, beautiful. They come crumbling down. They reinvent themselves every 25 years. So that's why it has Las Vegas has been so successful. I'm not saying that St. Thomas or the USVI has to do like implosion, but it's an example of the way you refresh yourself. And the other example on the other extreme, and I think Michelle alluded, was Acapulco. Acapulco was, when Las Vegas was nothing, Acapulco was like the big thing. But Acapulco keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And where is Acapulco now? Not even Mexicans want to go to Acapulco. So those are very extreme examples of, I guess, what we are trying to convey here. But it's all about being competitive. As Michelle said, we don't decide where to take our ships. It's not the chairman. It's not Mr. Richard Fain, the one to say, "No, I'm going to take this ship to South Africa." No, it doesn't work that way. Our guests decide where to take our ships. And the good thing about the USVI, and probably the bad thing about the USVI, that the whole industry was created because you existed. No, you have been with the cruise industry since the beginning. So if there is a destination out there that you should know, about the industry, is you. Because you have seen the whole history of the cruise industry right before your eyes. You've seen the growth of our ships. You have seen the new technology that we're bringing on board our ships. You have seen the venues, the attractions, the things, the amazing stuff that all of us, all the member lines of the FCCA that we are doing. And we're spending a lot of money in creating that excitement. Again, going back to the example of Las Vegas. I don't say that we are replicating that model, but we are certainly spending a lot of money and resources in trying to excite guests to continue coming to our ships. And one thing that is happening in the Caribbean, and probably is more dramatic here in the USVI, that you have a lot of repeat guests. So these guests are they're coming here, seeing new things on board our ships, ice skating rings, bumper cars, climbing walls, zip lines, beautiful restaurants, and then we are bringing them to a destination that is more or less the same as what they saw a couple of years back. So that's why they are saying, from the next cruise, I don't think that we're going to go to St. Thomas anymore. St. Thomas, St. Kitts, St. Croix, or whatever destination, but we're talking about St. Thomas. So we are deciding then what to do with our hardware to comply with the guests' demands. And the ratings have been more or less flat over the years. So I guess my message, and I support whatever you said. I think you were like right on every point. I think you have lost some Oasis calls. I granted that, but it's not really our decision. It's the guest decision. As Michelle said, we are taking our ships where the guests want to go, and when they go where they want to go, they spend money. And so if they spend money, the destination makes money, and we make money. So it's a pretty good proposition. But if we take our guests where they don't want to go, the destination is not going to make money. We are not going to make money, so it's a bad proposition. So I guess I think the water transportation, for me personally, I think it's going to be a game changer. There are other things that I think needs to be done in order, for example, in Crown Bay, to improve a little bit the guest experience that the guests go through when they go through Crown Bay. But I think the team and what the governor is doing, and Commissioner Beverly, and with the support of all of you, probably you have. We have attended other town hall meetings, but I don't recall ever seeing a so robust private sector as the one that I'm seeing here today. So it's really up to you. The government will facilitate, but it's really up to you to make the necessary changes for us to continue coming here. So, but again, thank you very much for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Federico Gonzalez Denton.